Move on with introducing Judy, and we're very fortunate to have Judy Estrin here this evening. Judy is the CEO of J Labs, formerly known as Packet Design Management Company. She's the author of Closing the Innovation Gap, published this past September. Prior to co-founding Packet Design in May 2000, Judy was Chief Technology Officer for Cisco Systems. Beginning in 1981, Judy co-founded 3 other successful technology companies: Bridge Communications, Network Computing Devices, and Precept Software. In 1998, Cisco Systems acquired Precept, and she became Cisco's Chief Technology Officer until April 2000. Estrin has been named 3 times to Fortune magazine's list of the 50 most powerful women in American business.
Wow.
She sits on the boards of directors for the Walt Disney Company and FedEx Corporation, as well as 2 private company boards, Packet Design and Archrock. She also sits on the advisory councils of Stanford's School of Engineering and Stanford's BioX Initiative. Judy holds a BS in Math and Computer Science from UCLA and an MS in Electrical Engineering from Stanford University. Please allow me to welcome Judy Estrin.
Thank you. And either you think I spit or people think there's going to be a test. There's one person in the front row, but I won't take it personally. So I also just noticed that we're in between the business section, where my book would be, and parenting. And it's very appropriate because the only thing that I'm more passionate about than innovation is parenting, i.e. my son. So it's a very appropriate place to be standing. And I'm going to talk so first, thank you all for being here, and to the organization for hosting me. I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes and then leave 30 minutes for questions about the book, about innovation, or about anything else that you'd like to talk about. Innovation is one of those overused words that we have in our lexicon that we hear so much that it's essentially become a soundbite. And in fact, when you have a word that you've used that much, often we lose track of what its real meaning is. I like to think of innovation actually as a state of mind, having the capacity for change that results in new ideas, new products, new services, and new ways of doing things. And innovation today is more important than it ever has been before. At the national level, innovation drives our economy. Breakthroughs like personal computers, the cell phone, the internet all led to, as we know and here certainly in California, incredible periods of economic growth. Innovation also results in an increased quality of life, and whether it's medical care, consumer products that entertain us, or new materials that make our clothes more comfortable or more durable. And it's only through innovation that we have a hope of addressing the major challenges that we face, from energy to climate change, from healthcare to education. And only through deep and broad innovation can we replace the economic bubbles that we have been going through that have created the illusion of prosperity with real sustainable economic growth, which is really what we need. Leaders of organizations in both business and nonprofit sectors need to understand what encourages innovation, and as important, all the ways that we inadvertently stifle it. For the ability to innovate and adapt to change is ultimately what will make those organizations successful. But innovation is also very personal. Each stage of life brings change, new jobs, new careers, and new relationships, be it friendships, partnerships, or parenting. Okay, so maybe you now believe that innovation really matters. With all the new devices, social networks, medicines that we see around us, do we have a problem? What's the problem? Over the last several decades, we've become increasingly short-term focused in business, in government, and as a society. As a result, we don't just have a budget deficit and a trade deficit, we have what I call an innovation deficit. We're reaping the benefits of seeds that have been planted decades ago, but we're not planting sufficient seeds to fuel innovation and economic growth for generations to come. When I interviewed Marc Andreessen, who many may know was the creator of the browser, for my book, I commented on how quickly he had developed the product, and he essentially in 6 weeks had developed a product and suddenly 1 million people were downloading it. And I love and use the quote that he gave me back when he told me that what he did was simply the icing on a cake that had been baking for 30 years. And it's true, the browser was what made the web available to all, and why we know and what we think of when we think of the web today. But it would not exist without the layers below it, from HTML, which is the language of the web, to the TCP protocol development that I worked on as a student in the 70s, I'm dating myself, to the packet switching work that was done at UCLA in the 60s. And if we wait 10, 20, or 30 years to wake up to the impact of our current short-sightedness, it'll be too late. I began speaking about a decline in the support for innovation in 2005. And as I became more and more convinced about how serious the problems were, I found myself doing something that I never dreamed of, writing a book. I wanted to communicate my concerns to a broad audience, all types of people, not just technologists and not just Silicon Valley. And to do that, I needed to take a complex subject and make it a quick read, because we all know what attention spans are like these days, while avoiding the oversimplification that I was trying to counteract in the book. I interviewed over 100 people to both complement and expand my perspective and to add quotes and examples to the book. The title of the book, Closing the Innovation Gap, may lead you to assume that I'm comparing America to other countries. But innovation is not a zero-sum game. We want the whole world to be innovative so that we can work together towards a stronger global economy and a healthier, more sustainable and secure planet. But if we don't maintain support for our innovation, our innovative culture, not only will we cease to be the leader in the 21st century, we won't even be a player. For you can only really partner well from a position of strength. The gap that I'm talking about in the book is the gap between the environment that we have today and the one that we once had. And more importantly, where we are today and where we need to be, and what our potential is as a country. Here are a few paragraphs from the preface. I was fortunate to be born at a time when the nation understood the importance of science, technology, and innovation, and encouraged taking risks. Along with many other scientists, business people, and parents, I'm convinced that my son's generation will not have the same opportunities that I enjoyed, as the country has become increasingly more focused on short-term gains. And remember, I wrote this back last March. This book was born from my need to try to do something about this shift by sharing my perspectives. To reclaim our stake in the future, we will need to think broadly, be bold, and take responsibility for the problems that we've created. While appreciating the strategies for sustainable innovation that worked in the past, we also need to adapt to today's new economic and social realities. Many groups need to be involved in solving this problem, including business, government organizations, financial institutions, nonprofits, academics, educators, and parents. To move forward effectively, this diverse set of players will require a common framework and language. One of my first lessons in effective problem solving came from my father. When I was a student at UCLA, there were no personal computers. Everyone shared time on big mainframes, submitting programs and getting the results back hours later. I remember staying up all night for my first programming class, nearly in tears, because each time my printout came back, the word abend, which was short for abnormal ending for those of you who are younger, glared at me. My program had crashed. When I would come home overwhelmed, my father would remind me to try to break the problem into smaller, more solvable pieces, while keeping in mind how they all fit together. That is the approach that I have taken to the problem of innovation. As I just read, one of my goals for the book was to lay out a framework for understanding innovation in a broader context, the gestalt of innovation that is required in